Mr. Nice Guy. I'm gonna teach you guys a lesson you'll never forget. Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy, and I'm here today to review the latest movie adaptation of a popular and beloved anime to miss the mark entirely, and that is Death Note 2017. Let's begin. Now, Death Note 2017 follows Light Turner! Light Turner. Don't get these two mixed up. A pathetic, angsty teen who finds a book called Death Note lying on the ground one day and decides to pick it up out of curiosity. He soon discovers that the book has the power to kill whoever's name is written on it, and along with his psychotic, try-hard girlfriend Mia, the two of them start killing off criminals under the name Kira. Their actions soon catch the attention of law enforcement, including L, who is widely considered to be the world's greatest detective. Light, now surrounded with enemies on all sides, fights to survive while also keeping up the duties of Kira. Now, to say that I was looking forward to this film would be an outright lie. I was very hesitant and skeptical when they announced that they were making this film and who they got to direct the film, Adam Wingard. I've never really seen any of his work. I've not seen Your Next, and I refused to see Blair Witch, so I didn't really know what this director was capable of, but I was willing to give it a chance. I was open-minded to the film, and I saw the trailer and it looked pretty good and promising, so I had hope maybe that this might be the film to turn the tide. Maybe from this point on we might be seeing a progression when it comes to movie adaptation of beloved anime. But considering that I've been burned so badly in the past, and one so recently too, I still was very hesitant, and I walked very carefully into the film. Now, before I dive headfirst into my review, I want to make one clear statement right here, right now. All the things that you're going to hear in this video, this review of Death Note 2017, whether they be praises or criticisms, are based solely off of the film's own merits and not in comparison to the original source material. And I will save my criticisms for how it completely fails as an adaptation for a later video. But this one is just about how the film works on its own as a standalone project. And with that said, put on your snorkels and let's dive in! So what were some of the things I liked about Death Note 2017? What elements truly stood out to me and that I really admired? Well, first, the first 10 minutes were fantastic. They were great. I felt like the film was off to a really great start. And if you saw my live reaction to the film, you could see me being really elated by the direction that they were taking and what they were doing with the first 10 minutes. I was so proud of the film. I'm like, okay, this has a lot of potential. It's showing the promise that it showed in the trailers. I mean, I'm glad that they took a different direction with the story to try to be its own thing and not have to copy or have to follow in the footsteps of the original series. I was very happy about that. I liked the style that they were presenting. The tone was bleak and dark, and I loved how they perfectly set up Light Turner's motivation by showing his distaste for injustice. You get a really small scene where the principal is scolding him for a very small misdemeanor while a bully gets to carry on doing what he was doing, which was a much more heinous offense. Because it perfectly builds up the character's motivation and why he decides to take the mantle of Kira, why he decides to take out all these criminals. Because he sees the injustice that is happening in the world and decides, you know what, I'm done with the injustice, I'm gonna put my foot down and do something about it. Well done, movie. Seriously, well done. Also adding to the first 10 minutes was the introduction of Ryuk, which was very well executed. He was haunting and out of this world. This is exactly how you bring this character into the story. And by the way, Ryuk looks great, and I'm so glad that they did motion capture work to bring this character to life, to have an actual actor there portraying the character of Ryut in a suit, and then having Willem Dafoe wear those dotty things so they could capture his facial movement and show his expressions. I thought that was a much better idea than to have a CGI character bouncing around and have the actors kind of guess where he might be standing and where his eyes might be. They'll show him concept arts, but they can't really get a good understanding of where the character is dimensionally compared to them. Here, to have an actual actor there is a great idea. And speaking about Willem Dafoe, perfect casting. The moment they announced that he was going to be in the movie, I knew that he was going to kill it, and he did not disappoint. He is the strongest performance in this film. On a technical level, this film is quite sound. Solid camera work, atmospheric lighting, and an appropriate soundtrack to a certain degree. Some of the music choices in the film were a bit shaky, and I wasn't feeling them, especially the last song of the film, which we'll get into later. And finally, the acting from the supporting cast was pretty good. Like Shea Wiggum as Light's father, he's always good in everything that he does. I like him as an actor. He's a good character actor. It was good to see him here. I liked him a lot. Like I said before, Willem Dafoe kills it, the best performance of the film. And finally, Lakeith Stanfield, who is slowly becoming one of my favorite actors working today. And he did a pretty good job for the first half of the film. The second half, what did you do to Lakeith Stanfield, man? And I guess with that said, let's get to all the problems with this film. And boy, it has a bunch. The film really starts going to shit once this bitch starts talking. Mia. The black-haired, cigarette-smoking, psychotic wannabe edgelord who, I swear to Jeebus, is a cheerleader ironically. Because a girl like her, from the way that they introduce her to the way that the character acts throughout the film, there is no freaking way that this character would ever be a cheerleader. She's terribly unlikable, has zero chemistry with Light, and acts so stupidly throughout the film. For example, once the cops start following Light because they believe that he could be Kira, she comes up with the brilliant plan of killing all the cops that are following and investigating him. Wow, Mia! That sounds like a great idea! I mean, there's no way that this could come back and bite you guys on the ass later on. I mean, there's no way that by killing all these cops that were following one person, that it would whittle down who Kira is and incriminate Light any further. Oh, no, there's no way that that could happen. That's impossible. Great idea, great plan. You were really showing off your genius, girl. They also missed a great and, in my opinion, obvious opportunity to do something very interesting with Mia's character by making her love Light, not because she really likes the guy, cares for him, and likes his personality, but so that she can get closer to the Death Note, so that she can harness the power of the book itself. Make it like a Lord of the Rings thing where she has become intoxicated by the power of the Death Note and she wants it for herself. And she'll do whatever it takes, even if it means kind of pretending to like this fucking loser. But nope, she does actually care about him and loves him, so chalk that one up to missed opportunities. And lastly, the actress who plays Mia is so unconvincing in the role. She just comes off as a tryhard. And look, I have nothing against her. I'm sure she tried the best she could, but her best wasn't good enough. But she's not the only character that acts stupidly. There's also her partner in crime and complete cuck, Light Emo Face Turner. Yeah, I just don't like this character. He's such an uninteresting and unsympathetic lead without an inkling of development and is a spineless coward for most of this film. Now look, I don't mind this new direction. In fact, I was fully willing to embrace it just so long as the character was compelling and went through some meaningful growth throughout the film. But he isn't, and he didn't. He's just a bitch through and through. And they tried their damnedest to make the character come off as a decent guy. Just a regular Joe trying to do the right thing. Trying to make him noble and sympathetic. Look, he's just a good guy. Don't hate on him. But it just doesn't register with you due to his irrational behavior, one-dimensional characterization, and lack of empathy. And all the stupid decisions he makes throughout the film didn't help his case either. Nat Wolff does a poor job playing Light. Much like the girl, he's not convincing in the role, and his weak-ass performance was a key component as to why Light Turner was so unlikable and why we were never attached to him in the first place. Not only are these two terrible individually, but they're absolutely atrocious when they're together, as their relationship is forced, awkward, unbelievable, and completely lacking in any romance. And yes, I saw the whole Bonnie and Clyde angle they were trying to take with the characters, but it wasn't properly executed because they completely bypassed the development stage of their relationship. You don't get to see the relationship get fleshed out and actually see them bonding with each other, forming a strong connection to the point where they are partners in crime. They work together. They're almost as one. You don't feel it. All you feel is that there's this bitch-ass guy that doesn't know how to man the fuck up, and then there's this one girl who thinks she's so fucking cool all the time because she smokes cigarettes and just doesn't give a fuck. They feel like total opposites, and it doesn't make sense why they would even come together. Well, because they shared a couple glances? That's not how a relationship starts, even if it's in high school. In fact, now that I think about it, none of the relationships in this film get enough time to be properly developed. Light and his father, Elle and Watari, Elle and Light's father, Light and Elle. I mean, none of these relationships get the focus and attention that they desperately needed, which is a major problem, especially later on in the film when one of the characters becomes super duper concerned for another character. But this concern feels so manufactured because you didn't even see these two characters spend more than 30 seconds with each other, so why would they give a damn? The last character I'll touch on is the mysterious detective known simply as Elle. Now this character started off great and had the potential to be the best and most memorable character in the entire film. His eccentric personality helped him to stand out from the bunch, and he was really entertaining to watch. You could really see the gears turning in his head as he tries to solve the case of Kira, where he's at, and using clever deductions to figure out where he is. You can really see the makings of a mad genius here, a high-functioning sociopath, if you will. Then about halfway through the film, he stops being that and becomes the overly dramatic and erratic cop cliche. You know the one that's constantly barking out orders, yelling and getting angry all the time and showing like a mean face and just making all these irrational decisions and saying, we can't rest until we find this guy. That kind of cliche. The type of character you would see in like an 80s, early 90s action cop thriller. Which, by the way, is exactly how the second half of this film not only felt like, but even played out as. An over-the-top, action-heavy, cliche 80s, 90s crime thriller set in modern day. Now, his behavior in the second half of the film can be understood. I can see why he was acting so frantic and all, but considering how they set this character up, this was something that he would have and should have foreseen and been prepared for, especially considering the clever and smart deductions that he made earlier in the film. The fact that this one thing took him completely by surprise is ridiculous and doesn't make sense in the context of the story that's being told. He also unfortunately wasn't spared from making stupid ass face-palming moves like the other two. He made plenty in this film. It feels as though the writers randomly got amnesia while they were writing the script and completely forgot everything that they did with the character of Elle and decided to just start from scratch in the middle of the story. Another big problem that just kills this film is its horrible pacing. It's too quick for the audience to get its bearings and to understand the full scope of the world of Death Note. And they rush through so much shit in this film, some of which I already touched on, like the relationships, but they also skipped parts that I felt like were very crucial to understand this world more fully. Like, there are parts where you actually see people worshipping Kira, kind of liking what Kira does, and it would have been interesting to see them explore that dynamic of people that actually root for Kira or people that think that he's a vigilante, that he's evil, he's no better than the criminals that he's killing. They also rushed through the investigation of Kira, which in hindsight was kind of meaningless. If it was just a battle between Light and L to see who was going to topple the other, that would have been perfectly fine. We didn't even need law enforcement to be a part of this story because they don't even give them enough time to shine or really show the dynamic of the team trying to investigate Kira and bring him down, and maybe even some conflict within the team saying, well, what if he's actually a force for good? What if he's actually helping us? There was actually a scene where a cop talked about how crime was going down and he was kind of helping out with their job and he feels safer. I would have loved to follow that character and kind of get his insight on what is going on. Maybe even see him try to help out Kira later on. And finally, they rush through the origins of the Death Note and where Ryu comes from. Like, they never answer where exactly is Rook from? Where does he live? Has he always been a part of human history? How old is the Death Note? They don't touch upon it. They do tell us that it's been used before, and you see that it is worn down. It's been used a couple times. It might even have been burnt at one time. But you don't know the history of the Death Note. You don't even know if the Death Note has existed over time and has been used by humans before. I have a feeling that it has because there is human writing in the notebook when Light opens it up, and that would have been interesting to actually touch upon. I think Ryu touches upon it just very briefly, saying that, you know, someone who owned that before tried to kill him and they only got to 2 letters and then he killed him. So again, that would have been interesting if they touched more upon it, kind of explore the history of Death Note, but because we only have an hour and 40 minutes to tell our story, nope, rush through that shit. The story's not thrilling, which is a damn shame since it is a thriller. There was never a moment where I was on the edge of my seat. Nothing truly surprised me, and I wasn't invested in anything that was transpiring on screen. Plain and simple, the story is boring! And lastly, the climax / ending of the film was a crock of shit, with another character pulling a 180 out of nowhere. I just hated how this film ended, and the climax, I didn't give a fuck. I really didn't. Actually, there's one more thing I'd like to address in regards to the ending that I also hinted to earlier in this review. Now, at the end of this film, they play a song called Power of Love by Air Supply. A good song, I really enjoy the song, but when I heard this song at the end of this film, I said to myself, really? This song, The Power of Love by Air Supply. This is the song you choose to close the film off? This romantic power ballad in a film about a kid that finds a notebook that allows him to kill people if he writes their names in it. Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, that's not a huge tonal shift whatsoever. Now, that fits perfectly with this film. It's such a great musical choice. So overall, Death Note, on its own merits, is a below-average film that showed promise, but never lived up to it, and is just an easily forgettable film. And as an adaptation of the original source material, the manga and anime, and me being a huge fan of both, it's a fucking disappointment. But as always, guys, I'm not the end-all be-all opinion when it comes to Death Note 2017. I would love to know what you guys thought about the film as well. Did you absolutely adore it? Is it one of your favorite films of the year? Do you think it's the best movie adaptation of a classic anime? Or do you find it really boring, dull, and it really let you down and you don't think that it was a good adaptation of the original source material? And if you have seen the original source material, what did you guys think of that? Did you really love it? Do you think it's one of the best anime ever made? And also let me know, which one do you think is worse? Death Note 2017 or Ghost in the Shell 2017? I know which one I would pick. Comment below and let me know. And stay tuned, I got more videos on the way, including another video on Death Note 2017, going into full detail about how it's totally inferior to the original source material and how it sucks as an adaptation. So stay tuned for that. I also will hopefully be dropping my Defenders review soon, and maybe even a special video by the end of the month if I could get it all said and done. But until then, guys, if you'd like to see more videos on this channel, be a part of the Black Critic Group, please hit that subscribe button below, like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm Tony One Second, the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube!